You just keep getting cooler. I already thought you were cool, Bill,
Oh
and you
God.
keep ratcheting it up. My dear friends, it's great to see you. I'm Stephen Clements, a writer, a gamer, and an appreciator of big brain activities in general. On this channel, I perform dramatic story readings, I provide role-playing game and movie reviews, and I get to talk to interesting people. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking to an interesting person who also makes role-playing games. And I'm talking about none other than Bill Barsh, founder and leader of Pacesetter Games and Simulations. Bill Barsh is a regular cast member on dear friend Luau Lou's podcast, This Old Dungeon, which I had the honor of joining them for one episode to review The House on Griffin Hill. Wow, one of Luau Lou's guilty pleasure modules. It was definitely an adventure worthy of sinking my teeth into, editorially speaking. And so while I'd listened to hours and hours of Bill Barsh share his thoughts, experiences, history, and so on This Old Dungeon, when I saw him at North Texas Con in 2025, it occurred to me that I know so much about him, he knows virtually nothing about me. So you know what? I want to get to know this guy better because he's a cool dude. Now, admittedly, on This Old Dungeon, he's the one most likely to give the okay boomer take on a given issue, but I still enjoy his perspective. And from this interview, I found out that he is a nerd, like trophy winning nerd. And you know what that means coming out of a guy like me? And you've seen the guests I've talked to before. These folks are into deeply nerdy things. But I think Bill's got us all beat, and his passion for it, you're going to see that in this interview. But he's not just a nerd. This is a guy who keeps setting goals in life and knocking them down. Whether it's being enlisted Billy Badass for the United States Army, a successful businessman in a very manly, productive field, or an artist in the realm of the creative arts. Oh, and don't forget, very happy and doting family man. Bill Barsh. He's scoring like 100 on all of life's tests, and I'm impressed. I think by the time you get done with this interview, you're going to be as well. So let's get to it. My dear friends, welcome, dear friend and communion buddy, Bill Barsh, to the show. I've had the pleasure of being on a show with Bill before, where he's one of the regular co-hosts of This Old Dungeon, and he also shows up on a lot of different shows like Talking Crit, because people like hearing what he has to say. But instead of focusing on topical issues or a particular RPG review, I want to take advantage of this opportunity to get to know the guy better, because I've met him several times. He's a cool cat. I got a bunch of his titles on my shelf. So, Bill, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Stephen, thank you for having me. Been looking forward to it.
So, you are the founder of Pacesetter Games and Simulations. What exactly is that? What are the games you're making? What are the simulations you're creating?
The name of the company is kind of an homage to two companies that were influential in my life and very important to me. One was the original Pacesetter Games back from the early 80s, which were a bunch of guys who split from TSR at the time to create Chill, Time Master, Star Race, and several other board games. I met them back in the day, really liked them, liked their vision of creating fun games and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, that company only lasted a few years. And then the simulations comes from SPI. I was a huge war gamer back in the day. So that's where Pacesetter Games and Simulations, our name comes from. It's more of an homage than anything else. We've been very clear to tell people, we're not affiliated with the original Pacesetter. I know the guys real well. I did a little bit of work with them, but not in a large capacity at all. I'm still really good friends with Steve Sullivan, one of the original Pacesetter guys, and Mark Akers on Facebook here and there. It was a long time ago. We're talking the early mid 80s. Well, Pacesetter, I founded it in 2009, and really it was 2008 legally. We produce adventure modules and supplements for Dungeons and Dragons, and for both classic and whatever modern version or current version is running, which today would be 5e. But we have some news on that, so we can talk about that later on. But that's fundamentally what we do, and we're also producing a couple of our own game systems ourselves.
Yeah, like you've expanded on some old school rules. I believe the Moldvay version of Dungeons and Dragons as your adventurer system. Was that decision made to ensure that you always have a reliable system that your products can work with? Because, 5e is now 5.5. There's differences in rules, and who knows when the next edition will come, and so on and so forth. Was that like a stability minded choice?
So
Or
you're kind of on the right track. So we have a couple different things, which can be confusing. The Adventure RPG is our Holmes retro clone,
oh,
essentially, and we designed that. It's very target specific because we were approached by the Holmes family and estate. And we're talking about Dr. John Eric Holmes, who designed the first D&D basic set. So everyone out there knows what I'm talking about for TSR. Well, he had his own home campaign. He wrote various novels. One of them was called Maze of Peril, which was based on a giant dungeon complex he designed. So the novel just takes some D&D characters through the adventure. If you ever have a chance to pick it up, grab it. It's called Maze of Peril. It's a great little novel. It's not long. It's a quick read, but it's just D&D in novel form. So anyway, we were approached by the Holmes estate, and they have all his old dungeons and his campaign setting and all that kind of stuff. And they said, "Would you like to do anything with this?" And I jumped out of my shoes because that my break into D&D was the Holmes set in 1977. So we've been producing that material. Right, we just finished our third book, Islands of Peril 2. But to do all that, we wanted to kind of keep some sort of Holmes rules aesthetic with it. So we designed the adventure RPG to go with it. You do not need it, by the way. All our home stuff is written. Any classic D&D version can be used with it. Our stat blocks are very comprehensive. But we just wanted to kind of put that out there because the home set only does go to third level. It's a rule set for 1 through third level. So we expanded it to 10th level with the adventure RPG. Very niche, very specific for that purpose. It just allows you to kind of play homes with those adventures if you want to. You don't need to, but we've had a lot of people get excited about it. Again, you can use it for any old D&D set, especially old stuff written back in the late 70s. About 5 or 6 years ago, our first endeavor into rule design was we did the BX RPG, and that was a Moldvay clone. Clone-ish thing, we didn't do an exact replica. The mechanics are all there, but we added to it. The idea was we wanted to have a BX or BECME, and I know it's mostly BX, game that was also open to people who were, say, 5e players and had never played that system before. Because it can be challenging for a 5e player that's their only view of the game to look at an old Grognard game. And look, we all know that some people are like, get your 5e out of my classic D&D kind of thing. So we kind of created that BX RPG in a way to be more friendly to people who have maybe only played 3.5, 4e, or 5e by having the characters a little more, having some special abilities and that kind of thing. No skills, no feats, but still keeping descending armor class and all that. And we did it about 6 years ago now. It was very well received. We did well with it. Although we don't sell the rules at Pacesetter, we do have it on drive-through. And people are still pretty active with it. And again, all of the stuff we produce today in our classic D&D line will still work with that rule system. So it's supported.
So you're such an RPG geek. You've got
Yeah.
not one, but two retro clones that you put out under your belt.
Because there's those finite differences between Holmes and BX, right? And it's not that much, but there is. So,
but speaking of Holmes, and that hat tip to dear friend Chris Holmes.
Yes.
You've been working with him to publish some of his dad's old material, and I've got some of it, particularly the beautiful Keelan Halverson cover for Isles of Peril 1. As the thing just gets better looking the longer I look at it. Do you have any input or sway in pushing Chris to actually put out some original material? Because he's got good stuff. I've played in some of his games.
We're working moving in that direction at some point. The thing is, he gave us so much of his father's stuff that we still have to get to. So, our commitment is to get that done. And then at the tail end of that, maybe bring Chris in to do some stuff. He does the artwork for us in the books, which is really nice. But as far as him writing an adventure for it or taking something he's previously designed, we're working in that direction. Without putting too many spoilers out there, we're going to do something really big with all this home stuff coming up. We're going to actually do a massive Kickstarter coming up with, including the stuff we've already done, plus 3 other books that we're doing based on that material to round out this entire Holmesian campaign adventure setting. So real excited about that.
I'm glad you're keeping the torch going and not letting that material get lost to time.
100%, right? Because look, I'm not saying if we wouldn't have done it, nobody would have. Somebody would have absolutely taken advantage of it. We look at it kind of in a way where we were really humbled when he came to us. And I think Chris did his research. I mean, we've been around again. Now we're 16 years right now. Going to be 17 years old in October. So we've been around. We've done the same kind of thing before because we have the We Warriors intellectual property in our back pocket. So Palace of the Vampire Queen, Dwarven Glory, all those things. These are the first adventures ever designed for Dungeons & Dragons and sold commercially. I mean, the Palace of the Vampire Queen is the first adventure ever sold for Dungeons and Dragons. So we tried to be really careful with that property, and I think we have been. And I think he saw that, and that's kind of why he came to us because we have a track record. And hopefully, I think people like what we do, and we love doing it. So there's both those things meet.
Good.
Um,
So,
so
what's it been
yeah,
like being an RPG publisher and a pretty successful one at that?
and thank you for saying that. For the first large number of years, this was this sounds awful, but it was my hobby business. It wasn't my full-time job. This was something I did because I love doing it. I do have some roots way back in my younger days of being involved in a hobby. I did some work with Task Force Games back in the day. I worked with Metro Detroit Gamers here back in Detroit to help put on game conventions. So I was really involved with that. We did a couple of Origins up there. While I was there, I published their monthly magazine, Deck of Many Things, back in the day. So I had a history and kind of when, got to a point in my life where my kids were, old enough where I could actually take some time and do some things, like this in this world. And then obviously the internet created an atmosphere to be able to do it. So that's kind of how Pacesetter came around. I was busy, did a lot of stuff with Pacesetter over the years, but it was more of a when I had time to do it kind of thing, but really busy. And I brought Ben Barsh came into the business a few years ago. So he's really helped out. And now I'm retired from my real life job. And now Pacesetter is turning the corner into a full time publishing company for our stuff. That's been our trail.
Neat. Now, what are some things that you've learned since you've gotten onto that side of the RPG hobby that folks who aren't involved in the creative side and the production side that would surprise us or that you think that would be worth telling us about? Because a lot of times we don't have perspective on what other people are doing, and it's easy to criticize people for this, that, or the other.
Sure.
But if you understood what they had to work with, then
Yeah.
maybe you'd be a little more kind.
Absolutely. So I actually have a degree in journalism, believe it or not. That's what I graduated college with. I went to work for a small local newspaper way, way, way back, well over 40 years ago, and worked there. And then I went to work for it was called the Oakland County Bar Association, and bar is in legal, not drinking. And I published there. I was their magazine designer. They had a big color monthly magazine, so I kind of have a background in this publishing world. I only did that for about 3 or 4 years and realized as much as I love doing that, having kids, raising a family, all the things that life demands, that's not an industry for that. I mean, to put it bluntly, there is no money in that field at all. They pay poorly, especially back then. Their benefits were awful. I had done construction as summer jobs my whole life going through high school until I went in the Army. Got out and I was lucky enough to have a lot of people in my family that were in the construction business, and I started my own home building company. I did that for about 15 years, and then my extended in-law family, some of them kind of retired out of their business and were forming a new business, and I got involved with that, which was a big underground construction firm. So I became a shareholder there. So I was out of publishing for a long, more, 35 years, long time. So a lot of things didn't surprise me, to get back to answer your question, because I had already had a background in it, right? And I think what does surprise a lot of people is how much time it takes, right? You have to look at adventure design is a multi-headed beast. It's writing the adventure, and I want to tell everyone out there, for me, that's the easy part. If for whatever reason, my brain works for that, and I love storytelling and I love adventure designing. But there's different things to that, right? Adventure designing can be incredibly technical, so the adventure has to work. It just can't be a good story. It has to technically work. Will the characters, can they meet challenges all the way through and survive? Are things logical and all that? And then you have to put all that together with the production end. You have to design the book. The tools out there are amazing today. Everything's electronic. I mean, when I first started, going back to my newspaper days, we were having things typeset by an outside typesetter, and we would cut these pieces out, the typeset pieces, wax the back end, and put them on boards. That's how we did things back in the day. It wasn't like things today. And we had Mac computers, but we still couldn't do page layout until PageMaker came in. And I'm dating myself with that because that's what I use. I started at PageMaker 1 and went all the way through 5, I think. And then Quark Express was a thing, and now it's all InDesign, I believe, is all that Adobe stuff. So
You were already an old hand
yes.
at writing, publishing before you even thought about Pacesetter games.
Yeah, and I had done
Okay.
a bunch of writing work for Task Force Games back in the day. So mostly now, again, we're talking about board games. I did Starfleet Battles. Wrote a lot of stuff for Starfleet Battles, either under my own name or under the design team name, which we wouldn't, no one would get credit on, that kind of thing, like name credit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I did a lot of work with that, and then I did some editing. My original start with Task Force was doing associate editor work on their pocket games. So yeah, I was fortunate to have that background. So a lot of things didn't surprise me when I started Pacesetter because I already kind of knew what to expect. What surprised me was how honestly easy some of this stuff became. I already knew how to work with printers, right? Because all that's involved too. There's so much more to it than designing an adventure, right? You've got to, if you want to do it the right way, you need, you can do it doing business as if you want, if you're going to keep yourself limited or just do what you want to do. But you gotta form a company, which means an LLC, and then you've got to deal with all that and the setup and all the rest that goes on with the backside business as zero to do with writing adventures. And you can find yourself spending a lot of time doing that. Right now, you've got distribution, you got fulfillment, crowdfunding is now the big thing. So you have to wear a lot of hats in this industry, none of which are particularly difficult, but there's a lot of them. And the one man shop thing, it's tough. You can do it if you keep yourself focused, and trying to stay a narrow thing. But the minute you try to grow, you really do need a lot of other people. You got to have cartographers, artists, editors, all these things, and which Pacesetter now has grown into. And just when we think hey, we're good, things do surprise us. We learn every day too. And it's like, okay, yeah, here's another avenue that we can go down that to help us improve this or X, Y, and Z and that kind of thing. So you do have to keep yourself open to all that, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right because it's easy to be good at one thing and maybe multiple things, but you can't be good at everything. Like
Yeah.
I'm good at writing, editing, speaking, but marketing, I got nothing.
I
And
didn't
that's a
even talk
skill.
about that, right? I didn't even talk about the whole social media aspect of this industry now.
Yeah. And
And
it's all a perishable skill because I was just watching a video where a guy was talking about the traditional book publishing industry, like novels, things like that. And it's not worth it because all the big traditional publishers are going to do is, if you're lucky, they'll give you a little advance and they'll post that your book's available. No marketing, no push. It's all dependent on your success, which in today's age and with the technology available, why would you split the cut with somebody if you have to do all the work yourself?
doing it
And
anyway.
you made me think of something else about all those behind the scenes parts of the puzzle. And I got the feeling that folks like Hasbro, they get so lost in the weeds with that part, the actual quality of the adventure doesn't really matter as much to them because that's not necessarily what the folks who are pushing it on their level are that interested in. They view it as a widget, whereas you're obviously a man of passion about this. And so you want to make sure the adventure is good, which the stuff of y'all's I've read and played has been good. And I've seen plenty of happy people with y'all's products and with your games at cons. So you got to have every piece of the team. And you also made me think of the saying I've heard Dave Ramsey say many times is that folks come across him and they see how big and successful he is. And his quip back to them is, yeah, 25 years into it, I'm an overnight success. So Pacesetter Games did not
Right.
start as, Bill Barsh just showed up out of a swamp somewhere or out of a lake in Michigan and everything was successful. He already had years and years of experience with all these things. So if you are out there thinking that you want to make something, don't push yourself too hard or expect too much of yourself too fast because he had to learn, everybody else had to learn.
Right.
Just be committed to learning and improving your craft, and eventually you'll get there.
You will, and there's plenty of people in this industry who will help you, including me and my son Ben Barsh and people, everyone who works for Pacesetter, and I know a lot of other guys from the comparable companies like us. We're always willing to help. If you're new to this and you're going right, you want to design your first adventure module, reach out to us. We will help you. I mean, I just speaking for Pacesetter, we don't look as anyone as competition. We don't. This is a big pool. Everyone can get in, do your thing. We all design different stuff. Pacesetter stuff is different than Lamentations of the Flame Princess's stuff. We're not competing for generally the same people or their time or their money. There's so many more, there's so many avenues you get in, but we'll absolutely help you. And again, we're going to kind of circle back a little bit, like game conventions is another really big part of this. I grew up doing game conventions, running them. They are to this day. So that was kind of big thing that came back right when, honestly, right when I formed Pacesetter, game conventions started coming back. North Texas RPG Con, Gary Con, those are all formed the same year. Obviously, no connection to each other, but kind of in 2008, 9, 10, also all these game conventions started coming back, and cons really have picked up steam again. And that is not something you should ignore. I'm an old school guy in a lot of things, and I absolutely believe in meeting people face to face, and that's why Pacesetter goes to 3, 4, 5 cons a year, usually 5, because we want to meet people. Nothing is better for me about doing this than when someone comes up and said, "Hey, I bought your book. I really loved it." And I don't care about the "I bought your book." I care about "I really loved it." And I want to, I'm like, "Oh, tell me about what you did with it." Because people do different things with all your products. It's amazing. But to me, that's what's the most important, right? Because the business end is the business end, and that's great. And you have to be on that. To me, the other end of it, producing something that gives people some joy or something that is kind of a legacy thing in a way, that's why I'm here, honestly. I've been fortunate in my life. I don't need Pacesetter to make millions of dollars. Would I like to? Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. But that's not the goal of Pacesetter. And we're kind of been a slow build. And we know that. And we're really starting to see that come to life as far as business growth goes. But we're not going to stop going to game conventions and saying hello to people, because that is awesome. And it would be easy to not do it because, again, crowdfunding, most of us, crowdfunding is probably 90% of our revenue these days. It's just how it's done. But I do think it's important to be on shows like this. I think it's important to meet people face to face, because they can put that face with a name, and they can say, "Hey, this is a real person doing this." And I guarantee you, if you meet me and we start talking, we're going to talk about what you did with your thing, because I love that interaction. And I love hearing about it. And we care what happens with our products. I mean, we are overjoyed when we see people running them at conventions. It's like we'll get an email say, "Hey, I'm running Screaming Temple at such con next month." And I'm like, "What can I send you? If you want pre-gens, what do you want? I can send you all kinds of stuff if you need it." Because we get super excited over those kinds of things. So that's something that, again, going back to your surprise question, that, I was surprised when I first started doing this, how few conventions there were. And all of a sudden they started popping up, and then they just really blew up. And it is really important to this industry to be a part of that, if you can. I know not everyone can. I understood.
Yeah, in Role Playing Mastery by Gary Gygax, he said, get your butt to a con, get in some
Yeah.
gaming clubs, be around other gamers. And Bill is not misleading anybody. Cons are fantastic places for networking. And I don't mean that in some
Yeah.
cynical, self-aggrandizing kind of way. It's that these are all a bunch of people who are passionate about games. And if you show up and say, "Hey, how can I help? How can I get involved with this?" He's not kidding. Someone will find something for you to do, whether it's to play test their game, and then you get listed as a play tester in the credits, or do some editing. Because when I showed up to any work related to the RPG industry, I already had some novels and short stories that had been published, so I had some credits under my
Yeah.
belt. And so it wasn't hard for people to figure out, wait a second, maybe you would be a good editor for this. And it's going well. People like it. And I get to work
Yeah.
with folks that make cool stuff. I like them. I like their products. It's a win-win. So there's a lot of synergy and win-win in this hobby. So
There
listen to the
surely
man.
is. Surely is. And you never know what's going to happen. Like I said, the whole We Warriors thing with House of Vampire Queen, that didn't happen out of thin air. That was Pete Carriston, who was the original owner, him and his wife, Judy. Pete came to North Texas RPG Con, I don't know, it was probably about 10 years ago now. They got him to come, and, I was overjoyed to meet him. And, at some point I said, I was like, "Hey, I think he was going to lunch." I'm like, "Do you want some company?" He's like, "Yeah," because he was all alone there. And I'm like, "Let's go sit down." And I just wanted to talk about this old stuff. And I, one of the questions I asked him, I said, "Hey, are you ever, you really should do something with this old material. People love it." And he, to be perfectly blunt, he said, "I've moved on. I wanted to come here just to. It's a great experience to see all this again, but." I think he's a college professor, so I don't remember exactly. I believe that's what he is. But he's like, "No, I've moved on. This is part of my past. I have no interest in any of that. But if you want to take all of it and do it," and I'm like, "Whoa, let's slow this horse down. I'm all in, but we're going to do this the right way." But how exciting is an opportunity like that? Because opportunities, that's where they come from, right?
That's so cool.
And that never would have happened probably if I would have sent him some email saying, "Hey, I'm so and so. Would you like to surrender all your IP, or I'll buy all your IP?" That this occurred over the course of 3 days of him and I chatting. and then sitting down for a half hour and having lunch. And again, it wasn't even the topic of conversation. It was never in my thought process that that would happen. It got there because when people get to meet you, I know I'm preaching to the choir on a lot of this. There's nothing better than face-to-face contact, and people get a feeling of who you really are. I'm one of those people. I wear who I am on my sleeve. People who know me, you know me, and it is what it is. Hopefully you like me, and if you don't, okay too. But I think there's nothing better than being genuine with people. So
And if you're one of the folks that thinks that you're socially awkward and you're weird around people, a con is a fine place to go. We are
yes,
understanding, and so long as you're trying to play along, you're gonna have plenty of friends. You'll be fine.
and
Um,
believe it or not, I am not an extrovert. I'm just not. I'm probably lean more the introverted side, to be honest with you. But
really?
conventions have a way of changing that. You go to a con and you meet people, and there's people just like you. This industry is full of us. So,
Yeah,
and we have this
and
legacy of history.
true. And one of the folks that I've had the pleasure of meeting through the North Texas Con was our mutual friend Lou, who
Yep.
we've done an interview with before on this channel. It was a great time. Then I was blessed to be able to join y'all for an episode to talk about Lou's favorite, most hated module, the House on Griffin Hill. Now, you're a regular cast member on this old dungeon. How did
Yes.
that happen? Because I've worked back through the catalog and I remember the first episode where Bill Barsh shows up in it. How did you go from like a special guest to a regular guest with Edwin Nagy?
So I think the regular people couldn't do it anymore, to be honest with you. So I was a guest on the show, and then I was just talking to Lou, and he's just such a great guy. I mean,
He is.
what he does for that podcast is amazing. We just got to talking, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to be on, and I think we make a great trilogy of people because even though we're all three, RPG gamers and that kind of thing, we come from different outlooks of the game. Lou is our grounding force. I'm kind of the old school ish guy.
The bull in the
And
china shop.
yeah, and Edwin's, is polished and knows his 5e stuff inside and out. Definitely, he's more, and I don't want to speak for him. He like loves different stuff. I mean, he just really does. I'm kind of tunneled a little bit, but I think the three of us together, we give that different outlook on everything, and the show just works. I mean, I couldn't be happier to be on it, and I feel privileged to be there.
And you're right, y'all complement each other so well. Anytime I'm listening, about 50% of what you say, I'm like, Bill speaks for me. And the other 50% is, Bill is dead wrong. But either way, I'm entertained by what you're talking about. And Edwin, he's like the nicer, gentler voice on there. And sometimes y'all's disagreements drag on. And I think in general, like in spirit, Lou is usually in your camp, but he's trying to play the diplomat. But watching y'all spar sometimes, it gets really entertaining. And for the viewer that hasn't listened to this old dungeon before, none of it's hostile. They're friends, everything's getting along, but it's that friendly banter. I feel like I know y'all so well. Then, like, I see Edwin at the con, and I've realized, oh, wait, this guy's like met me once.
Yeah.
So let me try to make that accessible. But that's cool. So, how long have you been on there? Has it been like 2 years?
I think it's getting closer to three. I was shocked. We were talking about it the other day, and yeah, it's between 2 and 3. I don't think I've been out full 3 years, but I know it's more than I believe it's more than two at this point. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
I'm surprised
And
myself. Yeah, I've been on it.
And the perspective that y'all bring is all quite a bit different. Edwin, he's got the job as a 5e line editor for Frog God Games, which they do stuff I love. And
Yep.
he's, like you said, he's got broader tastes and interests, so he can add some perspective where y'all might not have been exposed to a game before. But y'all also fill in a lot of his knowledge gaps for like the classic modules, because you're
Right.
dyed in the wool old school D&D aficionado, and they treat you as their historian on the show, rightfully so. Whereas you are a successful, independent, established publisher in your own right. And then Lou, he describes himself as a scrappy up and coming publisher and designer. I think he sells himself short, but he's a very humble guy. It's a good combination of perspectives on the creative side as well as just the temperaments and preferences side too. So keep up the good work. I'm enjoying it, and I am going to work through every last episode. I'm closing in. But you also have some geographic diversity there because Lou is a Indiana boy through and through. Edwin's up in middle of nowhere, Maine, in New England. And now you've moved around a bit, though. You're originally a Michigander, is that right?
Yeah, lived in Michigan. Well, other than the time I was in the military in the Army, I've lived my whole life in Michigan.
I don't remember having heard about you being in the Army before. When
Yeah.
we're in, what did you do? Because I was in the Army as well.
I joined the Army in 1984. I graduated high school in 82, tried to do community college, work full time, do all that kind of thing. No one in my family had ever gone to college, so I was the first one to try it. And to be absolutely fair, I was never a great student, anyways. Struggled doing the full time working 50 hours a week trying to go to school. I said I need another way to make this happen. So I actually joined the Army for the GI Bill, which a lot of guys do and do those kinds of things. And I wound up staying longer than I planned, but I went through basic training and then I went in the infantry, so it was all combined back then. So basic wasn't basic. You did basic and what's called AIT, which is your advanced individual training at the same time. So it was one long 14 week course. From there, I got selected to go to airborne school, which was, a really nice thing to have happen. So I did that.
How was that? Did you have a good time?
Not initially. It was there's like with me, there's a story for everything. But so
Let's hear it.
I go to airborne school, and you get put in the same way you break down. I know people who don't have experience in this. You get broke down into squads and platoons and companies, that kind of thing. So the group I was in, this platoon I was in, was full of Navy SEALs, full of them. There was me and like seven other guys, and the rest are all Navy SEALs going through their airborne phase. And these guys were just animals. I mean, they were just, you know, nothing's going to phase them. No one can out PT them. They challenge the instructors, and we're in the mud pit, 3 times a day for an hour each doing PT because they're like, you can't PT us to death. These guys were crazy. So I made it all the way through with these guys, and they were great. They treated me like their little brother. I mean, it's just how it was. These guys were, tip of the spear guys. And it was a great experience for me because I didn't know anything. Again, I had just finished base training AIT. I'd never even been to my regular unit where I was going to be sent to. So I still don't know anything. I'm just a raw recruit essentially still at this point. So I went through all that and got through airborne school. And then again, I got selected at that point to go to Ranger School, which I didn't ask for, but they came at the end of at the end of airborne school, said, "Hey, would you like to go? We've selected you due to this criteria or whatever." And I think it was mainly because I survived with that situation. So the instructors, they all know each other at Fort Benning anyway.
Yeah, they didn't pick you
And
because they liked you. No,
no, it was all different cadres. They're like, let's send this guy, and I'm like, okay. So I went to Ranger School, and I did well enough there. I got through all that and went through RASP, and then actually got assigned to Third Ranger Battalion right in Fort Benning. So it was funny. I went there for basic. I never left. I mean, I was never there after that. We were gone all the time, but so that
Fort
was
Benning, I remember it well for
yeah,
OCS. And I
yeah.
saw those
So
airborne guys running around every day, and I thought, nope,
yeah,
nope, nope. So
no,
you're a certified badass.
no, let's not say that.
If you
I'm
made
old.
it through all that bull crap, especially back then when there was no kinder, gentler, nothing in the
No, there
Army.
was no kind of General Army back then. It was a different
No.
era.
Wow, I'm impressed. So, well,
It's okay.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Like it was a long, long time ago, and that was a much younger, healthier Bill Barsh. But problem with all that is when I went to Rangers, got assigned to Ranger Battalion, I had to extend my contract almost full 2 years. So I was in for 6.5 years active duty, and I had 6 more years in the Army Reserve after that. One of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life was to actually get out and go back to Michigan and go to finish college. But it was
Really?
something I told myself that I was going to do. And I was, like I said, I was having a great military career. Was very fortunate and was doing very well.
Well,
But I
I think that
deployed a
even,
ton and all that. And I just thought it was time to do this thing I said I was going to do. So,
yeah.
um,
Well, I think
yeah,
my 3.5 years in the Army was the best professional decision I ever made, and it improved me as a
for
man.
sure. I never
Um,
regret being there. Like I said, my hardest decision was not re-enlisting for active duty.
that's a surprise here that Bill
Oh,
certified tabbed badass. Were you mostly stationed at Fort Benning, like for your active
yeah,
unit?
I was stationed. Yeah, I was a third Ranger Battalion, so I was stationed at Fort Benning. I didn't spend I mean, I spent a lot of time there, but a lot of not. I spent almost 10 months in Panama altogether.
Really?
Um, yeah, I was in the Sinai for a little bit. And then there was Operation Just Cause, which was Panama again. And then Desert Shield, Desert Storm also. So,
Wow.
but yeah, look, I know it sounds crazy, but I consider myself very fortunate. I never had to do like a hardship deployment, so you just don't do those within battalion because we're highly deployable. So we always have to be kind of there. But yeah, that was that, and then it was back to Michigan. Getting back to answer your question, so for most of my adult life, I've lived in Michigan, and then my daughters went to college down in Florida, and they wound up staying down here, and that's where I'm at now. So my wife and I decided in retirement we were coming down here, and that's what we've done.
Was the daughter the nexus for getting you interested in Florida, or had you gotten a taste for
We've been
the
coming down here. No, we've been coming down for a long time. I mean, it was
okay.
kind of a both ways kind of thing. My mother and my in-laws both had kind of vacation homes down here, like condos that they would, go to several times a year, that kind of thing, down the Fort Myers area, south of Fort Myers, between Fort Myers and Naples. And my daughters both loved it. They came down all the time. We're big Disney people too, so we go do Disney almost every year. So they would have been coming down to Florida a lot. They were real familiar with it, and they went to school. Like I said, they wound up going to college down here. They're both fortunate to get scholarships and that kind of thing. So
Great.
it worked out for them. It was crazy story. And those of you with little kids and you're not adverse to it, there's lots of opportunities. I mean, whether they're athletes or not too. I mean, a lot of Florida schools will give in-state tuition to out-of-state kids based on different things. So that makes it incredibly affordable, especially compared to a state like Michigan. Michigan, the public universities are expensive. It's not cheap. I'm sure anywhere to go to university, but Florida is very affordable, honestly, comparatively. There was all that. Anyway,
Good to
that
hear.
kind of just turned into the hook for us, right? They went to college down here. They both have careers down here. My son Ben spent like 3 years down in Florida. He did Disney College program and worked with them for a while. He went back up to Michigan. Like I said, the girls came down here and they never came back. So that gave us kind of the hook. And we've always loved coming down here. And like I said, I've been in construction industry my whole life. I've worked outside 12 months out of the year. So I am done with winter. I'll put it to you. Completely
I,
done. And for those of you who don't know, Michigan gets roughly 6 to 7 months of winter. It's Look, no, we're not under 12 feet of snow, but it turns gray in October, and we barely see the sun for 6 months. And you're going to deal with temperatures between roughly 10 and 35 degrees for 6 months. I'm done with that. I don't
I can
need it.
relate because I lived in New Hampshire for four
Yeah,
years. And my
exactly.
first winter there, when I was cleaning out the driveway, and then the snowplow came by and filled it back up, I
Yeah.
realized why everyone comes to Florida for the winter.
Yes.
But in Michigan's favor, y'all usually don't get that wind chill, like Wendigo effect of the plain states where it's like minus 80.
No, no. I mean,
So
we'll get air temperature down to the negatives
sure.
for sometimes a week or two at a time, but we don't get that -80 wind chill. No, nothing like that. It's just consistently miserable. That's how I like to put it. It's just consistently terrible, and it seems like it's got worse as time's gone by, but maybe that's just my old man eyes looking at it. But it just feels, yeah, people talk about Florida being hot. There's no lie. I mean, it's the end of
It's
June right
hot.
now. It's 92 degrees and it's 80 to 100% humidity every day. That's
Mhm.
what it is here for 3 months. It just is. There's no getting around that. I don't care. I mean, I spent almost a year in Panama. Believe me, I don't care.
It gets
Um,
hotter.
yeah, but it rains every late afternoon here, then it cools off. The mornings are fine, the later evenings are fine. And I'll take that trade-off, those few months, for literally, 6 months of 72 degrees with blue skies, and it barely ever rains from September through April. Oddly enough, you think it'd be the rainy season. It's not. We were in a drought here for 2 or 3 months actually. So for those 6 months, Florida's just absolutely brilliant.
He's right. And I'm originally from Tennessee and was consider myself a proud son of it. And They used to say things like, I never lived north of the Mason-Dixon line, or it's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
communist Canada up there. And then I actually went, and it's pretty nice. I mean, maybe not Ohio and maybe not Indiana, but I hear
Ohio.
Michigan's beautiful. I knew New England was beautiful. And I never expected to live in the land of hurricanes, sinkholes, and
Yeah,
crocodiles. Or I'm
right.
sorry, alligators.
Yes.
But I love it in Northwest Florida. So have you looked into the cons, the new cons that are coming up in Central Florida?
I haven't, so I'm just starting to get into it. There's one close to here coming up in September. It's, I think, two cons in one. It's Crucible and QuestCon or something right here in Orlando.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit more of a wargaming convention, but there's a lot of role playing. And I got pointed to it because the guy who runs group play for Adventures League for Gary Con, I think he runs it at Gen Con, Gamehole Con up in Wisconsin. The guy who runs all that, he lives actually right in the same town. I live in Celebration, Florida. He lives here also. And
Okay.
actually, when Ben was down here at the college program, he actually met him and great guy. So he kind of pointed and said, "Hey, Bill, you really got to bring Pacesetter to this convention." So we're going to look at it, we're just starting to kind of look at these down here because we've traditionally, yes, been a more of a Midwest con, the Game Hole, the Gary cons,
There's so many of
kind of
them up
thing.
there.
Yeah, so many. I mean, so
I'm
but we
also
do.
looking at a couple newer ones. One in, I believe it's called Tampa Con, and I think it
Okay.
happens at the end of October. And there's one in Jacksonville, Game and Party Con. They look like they're doing well. They run for like four
Yeah.
days a piece. And so maybe I'll see it, some of them.
Yeah,
Um,
it's something I'm gonna start looking at because closer regional cons are super easy, right? The ones where you can just pack up and drive to for a few days. It's a lot easier than the fly in or the 2 day drive cons. I mean, we're gonna do North Texas forever. I mean, it's just like I've been to every single one. I'm never gonna miss one if I can have any say in the matter. But that's like a 16, 17 hour drive. We used to fly to them all the time, but it's just too hard to bring all the Pacer stuff anymore
right.
to that convention. We really do try to do a nice booth setup. So
If I could
along,
take it back to
right.
Michigan, what was
Yeah,
it
yeah.
like growing up there, like pre-internet? When you actually had to like talk to people and go outside and do things, because that's a whole
So
different world.
it is a whole different world. I mean, I don't have a bad word to say about Michigan. I love Michigan. That was the way of life, right? I mean, winter was there, but we still went out and did stuff. I wasn't an ice fisherman or really big size skied, so there was that. So you do find yourself in some winter sports, but we also get like 4 to 5 months of absolute gorgeous weather from really the end of May till October. It's hard to beat. It's beautiful up there. The change of seasons are amazing. Fall is just absolutely beautiful. Michigan is a beautiful state. I mean, you've got all that water, which is amazing. I find it weird that there's states, right, they have like no water. It's like you go to Kansas and there's like nothing, right? I mean, Michigan, you can't drive a mile without falling into a lake. So, and that's, I'm not even talking about the Great Lakes. I'm just talking about all the small lakes we have in rivers. So it was a gorgeous state. And I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit. So we were pretty active. I mean, it's a big sports town community outside Detroit. So not a bad word to say. I love Michigan. It's great people, but it's the Midwest. And I tell people all the time, I've done a lot of work in the South, coastal Alabama, coastal Florida, in my construction career. And I used to tell people up north all the time, I said, you have no idea how different it is down there. We're crazy up north. Again, people who are listening or who aren't in the know, everything is always going 100 miles an hour up there. Everything's got to be done yesterday. Everyone's in a hurry all the time. Everyone's got their kids in 20 different things. It is, it's a lifestyle up there. And I'm not talking about just a few people. It's just everyone I've ever met up there is pretty much the same. The Midwest is, believe it or not, it's just a fast lifestyle. Then you come down to southern, like I said, coastal Alabama, coastal Florida. South is just different. They're not in a hurry. God, well, bless you if you think you're going to get them meant to be in a hurry, right? There's the good and the bad with it. I don't want to say people are more polite, but South is amazing, right?
We
Everyone,
are.
if you shakes your hand, it is more that way. And I'm not saying that the Midwest is not. It's definitely different. So
Thanks for that little snapshot
yeah,
of Michigan. And so it was the weather, the way of life, the kind of, I guess, social values of Florida
sure.
that made you want to come down here for your retirement. Is that right?
Yeah, it all plays part of it
Okay.
for sure,
Cool.
right? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's also great being part of a no income tax state, especially as you're becoming a
Yes.
retiree, right? I mean,
Yes.
all of that adds up. It all adds up, and it's not just one thing; it's all of the things.
Oh yeah. I mean, Florida
So to
competes
say.
for, I think, usually in the top five least tax states in the union, and yet we're still pretty functional.
I
We're
think
always
they're
fixing
incredibly
stuff.
functional, right? I mean, I understand that Florida doesn't have to deal with the weather what it does to the roads, like in Michigan. I mean, that's a whole other nightmare. The roads just destroy your vehicles up there. They're always bad. There doesn't matter how much they work on them; they're never fixed. I know people might complain about roads in Florida. You have no idea until you go to a state like Michigan. No clue. It's just totally different.
Well, and our governor pointed out that the state of New York has fewer people, has a bigger budget, and they have worse services and worse
Yeah,
quality of life than we do in Florida. So
100%.
it's a human
Yeah.
capital and ideas thing.
Things are rising quickly. Like even the school systems in Florida, which were not great for a very long time. Their school systems down here are really shooting up. Like
Yeah.
they're top third in the country now, I believe, if not higher. So yeah, I love it. I'm a Florida fan, obviously. So
So before you retired down here, in addition to Pacesetter games and simulations as your side gig, you said you were mostly in construction. What kind of construction did you do? Like residential, bridges, major projects?
sure.
What were you
So
up to?
I started out in new home construction. I did that for about 15 years until the 2006-7 debacle, right? The
The
collapse of the
crash.
U.S. kind of crash. Here's one more interesting fact about Michigan. Michigan is always the first to feel the effects of a recession and the last to get out of it. And it's mostly because it's such an industrial state, especially with the auto industry. So
Ah,
that state, every recession that I've ever lived through in my life, Michigan always were in it first and we're out of it last. It's just how it is. And literally everyone shut down in construction during that recession. I mean, all of my subcontractors I've been with, most of them left the state. If I built a house and my cost with land was say 300 or 350 grand, I couldn't even sell it for 250 during that recession. So it was over. It was last person to turn out the lights in the construction industry, especially residential homes. It was over. Home values dropped in that state 70, 80%, including all your personal homes. It was the amount of foreclosures that were going on, all the rest of it. It just eviscerated Michigan's real estate economy. So I
that's
kind
awful.
of drifted out of that. And like I said, my in laws were always in underground construction and they were closing that business up, but they were starting a new one, which was more of a maintenance and inspection of pipelines kind of company. Very, very niche. So I agreed to go to work with them. I did that for really, really the next 20 years up until just last year. So I was a shareholder in the company and all the rest of that. But I had to travel, here and there. Because like I said, we did a lot of work in Michigan, but we also did a ton of work in coastal Alabama and coastal Florida. And we mainly did sewer and storm system work. So it was basically running inspections of those systems with cameras that go actually through these lines. The technology is crazy. You never believe it. I didn't know anything about it until I got involved in it. And then we could actually do repairs without digging up streets. So we had equipment that,
Wow.
depending how bad the damage of the pipeline was, you could actually repair it and then stop water intrusion. Like stormwater, you don't care if water gets in this system through bad joints or leaks. Sewer systems, you do not want. And I know no one is here to get an education on how this works, but your municipality does not want groundwater seeping into your sewer lines because all that water has to get treated at a treatment plant, and they basically pay per gallon. So if you're treating tons of groundwater that's leaking into your sewer system, your city is paying literally millions of dollars to treat rainwater, which they don't want it, right? It's just a loss. So our company specialized in stopping that penetration. So
In
uh,
addition to that being
really
work
niche.
that a lot of folks don't think about until it goes wrong,
Oh yeah,
this is work that makes civilized life possible because we're not all
possible.
living in filth all the time.
100%. And yes, and you're talking about like storm system lines are one thing. So, I mean, that's bad when they go bad because then you hear about like when like it rains and some neighborhood floods. Well, that's because the line's blocked somewhere and you don't want that. It's bad news. Imagine that if that's a sewer system that collapses and backs up into your houses. Now the loss is significantly way worse than just regular groundwater. So yeah, and these systems are old. I mean, I hate to break it to people, but unless you're in a brand new locale, your sewer system's probably 50 to 80 years old. They don't last forever. And when they
No.
go, it's not cheap. So again, that's something our company specialized in doing those kind of repairs without tremendous expense and finding stuff before it got bad. So
That's really cool.
very niche business, but very much in demand, and not very many people have the expertise and the equipment, which is you can imagine is incredibly expensive. So
In my first 4 years as a contracting officer for the federal government, I was specialized in the maintenance and repair of VA hospitals. All those beans and bullets things of keeping the electrical working, keeping the plumbing working, getting pipe fitters to do repairs, this and that, having your chillers properly serviced, all that stuff. It doesn't sound sexy, but it's really interesting once you realize the impact all this has. Water treatment to avoid Legionnaire's disease in a hospital. I mean, Legionnaire's disease, I mean, it can kill people and it can shut down a hospital. It can ruin everybody's day. So, maintenance engineering services, oh, yeah, thank you all. That's really cool, man. You just keep getting cooler. I already thought you were cool, Bill,
Oh
and you
God,
keep ratcheting it up. No
this is
wonder
all
Lou's
old
got you.
stuff. This is all old Bill Barsh. It's long gone.
Well, it's one hit after another.
Yeah.
Actually, that reminds me of another question I had for you. Speaking of hits, of the RPG products you've put out, whether it was through Pacesetter games or from your previous time with Task
Yeah.
Force, which product that you were involved in making are you most proud of?
Oh boy, it's like picking your favorite kid, man.
It
It's
is.
such a tough question. I'm going to pick a couple, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I'm always going to go back to our first adventure module was a thing in the Valley that we produced now 16 years ago because that started Pacesetter. Without that adventure being successful, there never would have been a Pacesetter. I mean, I did that the complete old-fashioned way. It was a adventure I'd written years and years ago, way before that. Even probably wrote it in the mid 80s, I think, originally. But I said, okay, I'm going to make this an adventure module. Designed it, paid for the art, and I got 100 of them printed at a local printer. No idea if I was going to sell a single one of these things. I didn't have a website. I had nothing. Facebook wasn't really much of a thing back then. I was on a website and forum called the Achaeum, and I'd been on there for years. And I just, started a thread. I said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. If anyone's interested in this adventure module I'm producing," and I took pictures of it and said, "Hey, it's." I think I sold them for $10, and I was just not looking to lose my butt, right?
Humble
Sold.
ambitions, but
I
important
put
ambitions.
yeah, put two of them aside and sold 98 of them within 24 hours. They were gone, and I was like, "Wow!" I was shocked. I was
Heck yeah.
humbled, overwhelmed, and just it was amazing. But that kicked Pacesetter off, and that was still one of our best selling adventures for probably almost a decade. We just constantly moved that adventure. So
If I can add to it, Bill keeps his products at a very accessible entry dollar point too, because when I was at North Texas, you had a bunch of
yeah,
stuff for 5, 10, 15, $20, and that makes it easier to give it a try.
we really do try to do that. So we've always I think we have a pretty good reputation of being very affordable. A 32-page adventure module. I think we kept them down to 12 or $15 up until just a few years ago. Even I was never looking to make this a giant moneymaker. I just wanted to make sure the company survived. I could do game conventions and without stretching and all that. And we've always tried to be most affordable. The next one I think is Endless Encounters Dungeons. It came out about 4 or 5 years ago now. It was a big project. It's like a 250-page hardcover, full color, and it's a level 1 through 10 dungeon room generator. That was a massive project for me and for the company. And it was our biggest Kickstarter ever. Super proud of that. And I'm also super proud of Ben's adventure. He did around the same time frame called Into the Unknown, which is like a 64-page full color solo adventure. We do a lot of solo adventures at Pacesetter too. It's one of the things I think that I think we're good at doing them. I think we've got it down really, really technical. This is why nobody does them. They're hard. That product is just, again, one of our best selling products ever. We typically sell out of both of those books at almost every game convention we go to. And you would think, oh my God, how do you possibly run out? Well, again, we have to travel to most of these. We can only bring limited numbers sometimes, but we can never keep either of those books in stock. And we've got, again, tremendous amounts of feedback from them. I mean, when Sandy Peterson, one of the designers of Call of Cthulhu, comes to you and says, I use this book all the time for my Call of Cthulhu stuff. You did something right, right? And I don't like to name drop. You probably know that, Steve. I don't do that, but I was like floored when that happened. I'm like,
It's Sandy Peterson, probably
he's such a
after
great,
Gygax, maybe the most influential
yeah,
game designer in history. I don't
yeah.
think that's an exaggeration.
That's a proud daddy moment right there. And I've had some other luminaries kind of say the same thing. I'm not
That's
going to say
amazing. And
but
I have that
that one
book.
I had to because it was so shocking. Right? He doesn't even use it for D&D. He was using it for his Call of Cthulhu stuff. I'm like, what?
whatever. And I have that book, and it is a good book. I'm going to do a review of it and interview Ben about that
Yeah,
because it's just too cool. And I love solo modules, and that's something y'all put a lot of effort into.
we
Uh,
do.
be, because that's one of the great frustrations as a gamer is I got this cool game and I want to play it, but my regular group won't play it with me, or I don't have a regular group. Well, then what do you do? Kind of like
Yeah.
make something up on your own? Well, that's annoying, but
And
y'all's system is good. It's well thought out too.
I appreciate that. And we, again, we've been doing them for almost 10 years now, and we do put a lot of effort into them. It's something we believe in. And look, it's like you said, it's tailored for people like that. Like, oh, your group's not getting together anymore, or you can't find a group. These are great products to use. Most of ours are replayable multiple times, but
Hmm.
you do the same thing twice. And then, the other thing we always tell people is like the forever GM. We all know there's the forever GM, right? Who
Yeah,
never gets to play.
that poor guy.
These are perfect for that. You don't need to go find a GM. Just play it by yourself. I guarantee you're going to have a blast. And I don't like to say guarantee very lightly. I guarantee you're going to like our solo adventures if you've never looked at them.
Well, I
They
like that one that Ben did so much that I bought a couple more of your solo adventures
okay.
at North Texas this year because I'm looking forward to it. I laughed out loud several times. And there was a fight where I thought I might be done for. But fortunately, I had an NPC helper
We're
along
yeah,
and your adventurer point system to give an honest reroll. I didn't have to cheat anything.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
y'all really did well with that, and I look forward to getting more into that in a full review for it. So, would you say that Into the Unknown is your favorite RPG product that you didn't make, or is
yes,
it something else?
for sure. Especially with
Okay.
Pacesetter. In Pacesetter, yes, it's and Ben's done several projects now, but that one, the one I'm most proud of him for doing is he wrote an adventure when Doug Ray, who started the North Texas RPG Con, passed away from cancer just a few years ago. Ben wrote an homage adventure for Doug. We brought to the convention. We donated all the proceeds back to the con, every penny, every single penny. No, we didn't keep a cent from that. And that was what he wanted to do. And he did that project. I had zero input. He designed it, got all the art done because he loved Doug so much. And Doug was always so good to Ben. I'm super proud of him for doing that. He only had 100 of them printed. They were gone like that at the convention.
I got one of them.
I think I've only ever seen one of them come up for resale in the 3 or 4 years it's been. Everyone held on to it. And we like doing things like that at Pacesetter, by the way. We are big supporters of Wounded Warrior here. We do a lot with them. We believe in companies that give back, and we try to do the same kind of thing. And we try to support game conventions we go to any way we can. But yeah, so again, this gives us the ability to do these kinds of things, right? And I think that's one of the things that we enjoy so much about Pacesetter games is it gives us the ability to do these things.
Now listen to this guy's passion, y'all. Bill's the real
I
deal.
told you I wear it on my sleeve. Yeah,
That's good. Okay, so you've retired from the day job and you're loving life in Florida, but you still got Pacesetter Games. Is Pacesetter Games and Simulations filling up the gap left by the old job, or are you finding new things to fill that time with because you can't sit still?
yes and no. So I have already decided that there's not enough. I probably don't have enough time on the planet to do all the things I want to do with Pacesetter Games, all the projects that I have in my various black journals and stuff like that. So Pacesetter Games is yes, as much as I want to do, but for right now it's full time. I'm spending anywhere between 8 and 15 hours a day, sometimes working on projects. So I love doing this. If that hasn't come across yet, this is my passion, and this will be my hobby. This will be my business. And even when it's not, when I hand it over down the road completely, I don't imagine a day where I'm not still writing adventures or doing something along those lines. As long as God willing, I'm able to do it, then I'll be doing it. I don't ever expect to stop. So,
So when they find you
like I said,
dead, you're going to be
yeah,
at a
yeah,
keyboard with dice in your hand.
exactly. A lot of people in life get to have, and I am absolutely thrilled that people out there, what's the saying that if you love the job you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I am absolutely ecstatic when I talk to people, and that's what they have in their real life. My jobs were jobs, they were work. Did I make the best of it and have some great friends and have a great experience? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, that was all still working my job. Pacesetter is everything else, right? To me, I'm never working a day in my life doing Pacesetter stuff. Doesn't matter how menial or whatever it is. I absolutely love the hell out of it. So this is my fun job time in my life. That's how I look at it. I have my work job part, right? It was great. Did everything I need to do. I'm very blessed from it. I was able to raise my family and hopefully do everything best I could do. But now it's time for Pacesetter to still be a business. Don't get me wrong. We want it to be successful because we do work other people, right? We have illustrators, we have editors. We want to send them work to do and pay them, and and keep them doing what they love doing too. So I do feel that responsibility also. So Pacesetter has to be successful in that vein. So it's not just a fun business all on its own. We have people depend on us. But for me, it's my fun job now.
That's awesome. Now, we're getting towards the end of the interview, and we're going to
Yes,
move into
sir.
the standardized questions that I've asked most
Yeah.
all of our guests, our new dear friends. Let's start off with possibly the hardest one. What's your favorite movie of all time and why? And if you can't do one, up to three.
I have a hard time picking. I mean, my top three. My Escape from New York for me is just I don't know what it is about that movie. I mean, I obviously loved it when it came out. It has always been one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm gonna leave it at that one because then I
Okay.
start thinking too many the typical the Blade Runner and Jaws. I know that Jaws is just doing its 50th year. I think I was telling my kids, have maybe seen it once. I'm like, we're gonna sit down and watch. I know you're all adults, but we're gonna watch Jaws, and they're like, "What?" And I guess like, the dialogue alone in that movie is just absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I have to give. I guess I am gonna say more. The animated version of The Hobbit, to me, is one of the best movies of all time.
It
Period.
is, straight up.
Just great.
No, it's a high quality flick. I'd recommend anybody watch it.
Yeah.
But, I still haven't seen Jaws because I thought this is just a spectacle movie. I don't really care
Right.
about some animatronic shark. But you mentioned the dialogue was great, which is something modern movies are usually awful at. Even
Yes.
good modern movies, their dialogue isn't as good as it could be. But now you got me interested.
I hate to say this, Jaws is not about a shark. It is, but it isn't. The three main characters in that movie, I think the actors did such an amazing job of putting that together and making you believe who they are. It's just great film.
And to touch on some of the other ones you mentioned, so Escape from New York, it's gritty fun, it's
Yeah,
nasty, it's a good
right.
time.
Yeah,
And Blade Runner, you could just watch that once a year for your entire life and still get more out of it
every time.
every
Yes.
time. And the role-playing game is really good too. I mean, my single most memorable experience at a con playing a game was a session of Blade Runner. So, and you can play around with the material. It's amazing. So, good choice. And you talked somebody who was reluctant into watching Jaws. So, you're
You gotta
doing a
watch
good
it.
deed.
Yes.
All right, moving on.
All right.
If you got shunted out of this reality right now and into a world of a specific movie or literary genre of your choosing, where would you be marooned and why? And remember, you have to deal with the good, the bad, and you can't come back. You're stuck there.
I just mentioned a minute ago, I'm going to the animated version of The Hobbit from and my Lord of the Rings world. I'm there. I'm there with Bilbo living in the Shire, and I'm down 100%. I don't even have to think about this. That would be perfect for me.
Now, are you staying in the Shire or are you going
I'm
to go on
done.
adventures?
I'm gonna go adventuring, but the Shire is.
Yeah.
I just how can you not enjoy? There once upon a time lived a Hobbit in a hole, not a nasty, dirty hole, but a clean Hobbit hole. I just yeah, I'm down. I'm good.
That's that's fine. And I like your sense of adventure too, because it sounds like you recognize after a while of having three breakfasts a day, you might get kind of bored.
Yes,
So you want to go to Rivendell or you want to go check out to see what the men are doing, maybe mix it up with some orcs now and then.
of
Hopefully not the
course.
giant spiders.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And then you get to go back and sleep it off and then go out and do it again. So I like
Yep,
it. I like that's
that's
a good
it. Yep.
choice. Now, do you drink alcoholic beverages?
A little, yes.
Okay. Do
It
you have
depends.
a favorite?
Jack Daniels, and you're gonna if you know anything about anyone who ever served in the Third Ranger Battalion, that answer is not going to be shocking at all. So we pretty much that and water is what we lived on. So yeah. So I became not before, but that just became yes. That's it. Again, there's your quick answer.
Yeah. Do you drink it straight? Do you put ice in it, water? Do you mess with it, or you just have
All,
it straight out
all,
the bottle?
all of the all of the above. Honestly, there's no bad way to drink Jack Daniels in my book.
See, I think every way of drinking Jack Daniels is bad because Jack is not your friend. He's there to get you in trouble.
No, he
Uh,
is there. Jack is never going to be your friend.
like you might think Jack's your friend, But by the time you get to the bottom of that bottle, you realize he was not on your side at any point during this adventure.
Nope.
But yeah, and I can thank Casey Christopherson for me introducing that question to the lineup because that dude can talk about him some booze and use terms for it that I've only ever read about in esoteric
My friend,
tones.
yeah, my friend Jim Kitchen is the same way.
Is
So,
he? Okay. Gotcha. All right. So that's the standard questions. So I appreciate your time with us, and I've had a blast. Hopefully you've enjoyed it too, and the folks at
this has been
home.
great. This has been great.
Where can folks get in touch with you if they want to say, Bill Barsh, you're a complete badass, and I just want to give you mad ups?
I am super easy to find. So obviously I am on Facebook. It's just Bill Barsh on Facebook. Easy to find. And then if you want to shoot me an email, it's just bbarsh@pacesettergames.com. Super easy. And we are pacesettergames.com on the internet. So we're easy to find. Or come see me. My preference, you could do all those things. Come see me at a game convention. I love to shake your hand, say hello to whoever you are out there.
He
All
does.
about it.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's been a great time, and until later.
Thanks, Stephen. I appreciate the opportunity here.
Now, wasn't that interesting? I told you that was going to be interesting. Yeah, so hopefully you came away as deeply impressed with Bill as I was. And do take the man up on his offer if you want to talk to him. I'll have links in the description of where you can do that. And I suggest you do like me and listen to his podcast, This Old Dungeon. He provides a lot of great perspective on what it's like to be an independent press head honcho and the lessons he's learned from it, as well as developments in the industry. All right there. It's a great podcast. So what did you find most interesting, my dear, dear friends? Were there other questions that you wish you could have asked Bill? Or ideas you wanted to give him? Perhaps feedback on some of his products that you've played or bought? Drop those in the comments below, and remember to like, subscribe, share this around to your friends. So that's what I got for now, my dear, dear friends. Until next time, I wish you nothing but the best.